The Elephant Man is a deeply moving film directed by David Lynch, which tells the real-life story of John Merrick, a severely disfigured man in 19th century England. The film, based on the true events, is a stark and emotional portrayal of Merrick's life, his struggles, and his humanity. John Merrick, played by John Hurt, was born with extreme physical deformities, and by the time he was an adult, he had been displayed as a freak show attraction. The film's plot focuses on Merrick's life after he is discovered by Dr. Frederick Treves, played by Anthony Hopkins, a surgeon who takes an interest in Merrick's condition and attempts to provide him with a better life, both medically and socially. The film begins with Merrick being found in a circus, where he is exploited for his deformities. Dr. Treves, upon learning about him, decides to take him to the hospital, where he is treated with more respect and care. Over time, Merrick's humanity is revealed as he forms relationships with the staff and others who show him kindness, particularly Treves. However, despite these efforts, Merrick still faces prejudice, isolation, and the cruelty of society, who only see him as a grotesque spectacle. The central plot arc follows Merrick's internal journey from being a freak to discovering his own identity, dignity, and the possibility of a life beyond his deformities, though the weight of his physical condition and societal attitudes continually weigh him down. The film culminates in a powerful and tragic conclusion, which remains an iconic moment in cinematic history. Characters. John Merrick, Hurt. John Merrick's portrayal by John Hurt is nothing short of extraordinary. Hurt, who went through hours of makeup and prosthetics to embody Merrick, delivers a hauntingly empathetic performance. Merrick, though physically deformed, is presented as a gentle, intelligent, and articulate man who longs for companionship and to be seen as more than just his outward appearance. The beauty of Hurt's portrayal lies in his ability to convey Merrick's silent suffering, but also his humanity, intelligence, and even humor. Merrick's most memorable scenes are filled with raw emotion, such as when he recites poetry or discusses his hopes and dreams. Dr. Frederick Treves, Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins delivers a restrained but compassionate performance as Dr. Treves, the doctor who initially sees Merrick as a medical curiosity. As the film progresses, Treves' character becomes more sympathetic, as he recognizes Merrick's humanity. However, his complex feelings of guilt, compassion, and his own professional reputation create tension in their relationship. Treves, in many ways, is the bridge between Merrick's suffering and the outside world, yet he also represents society's deep-seated need to categorize and control what it does not understand. The attendants and society. Throughout the film, various secondary characters play important roles in Merrick's journey. The attendants at the hospital and the public who encounter Merrick form a spectrum of empathy and prejudice. Some show kindness and compassion, while others see him only as an object of fascination or ridicule. One of the most touching relationships in the film is Merrick's friendship with a kind-hearted actress, which offers him a brief glimpse of a life where he is loved and appreciated beyond his condition. Themes. 1. Humanity versus appearance. One of the film's central themes is the tension between appearance and humanity. Merrick's physical deformities are the first thing people notice about him, and for most of his life, they define him in the eyes of society. However, the film explores how his inner character, his intelligence, kindness, and emotional depth is overshadowed by the public's obsession with his outward appearance. This is a tragic irony, as Merrick is treated as less than human simply because of his appearance, despite his clear depth of character. The contrast between how Merrick is treated by society and how he sees himself is heartbreaking but poignant. 2. Exploitation and the human spirit. Merrick's life in the circus and his display as a freak show exhibit the exploitation that people with physical differences often face. The film critiques how society, particularly in the 19th century, saw people like Merrick as objects for profit and spectacle, not individuals with their own dignity. However, the film also celebrates Merrick's resilience and human spirit, suggesting that even when society tries to reduce a person to nothing more than a curiosity, their internal value cannot be erased. 3. Isolation and loneliness. Merrick's isolation is one of the most heart-wrenching elements of the film. Despite the compassionate efforts of Dr. Travis and others, Merrick is never truly accepted into society. He remains an outsider, someone who is neither fully part of the world of normal people nor fully part of the world of freaks. His isolation is not just physical, but emotional, and the film poignantly portrays his desperate desire for connection. The few moments of human interaction he shares, such as his attempts at forming a relationship with the actress, provide brief glimpses of happiness, but only emphasize how much he is denied. Metaphor: morality and ethics in medical practice. Another theme explored in The Elephant Man is the moral and ethical dilemma of medical professionals in treating those who are perceived as different. Dr. Treves' internal struggle highlights the tension between his genuine care for Merrick and his desire to maintain his professional standing. While Treves' intentions are mostly good, the film critiques his paternalistic approach at times, questioning the ethical boundaries of helping someone without fully understanding their desires or autonomy. Real-life connection and differences. The film is based on the true story of John Merrick, who was born in 1862 with severe deformities. Merrick, whose real name was Joseph Carey Merrick, was a poor man who was exhibited as a freak in circuses before being taken in by Dr. Frederick Treves at the London hospital. In contrast to how Merrick was presented in the circus as a grotesque spectacle, in the film, Lynch focuses on Merrick's inner life and the emotional depth of his experiences. The film does take some creative liberties. For instance, it downplays some of the more controversial aspects of Merrick's life, particularly his somewhat exploitative relationships with his caretakers, as well as his later legal battles. However, the emotional core of the film, Merrick's struggle for recognition and respect, remains faithful to his real-life experiences. The film's portrayal of Merrick as a gentle, artistic soul reflects his own accounts, though it's more romanticized for cinematic purposes. Black and white cinematography. The Elephant Man is filmed in stark black and white, which enhances the bleak, somber tone of the story. The decision to film in black and white adds a layer of historical realism, creating a sense of distance from the contemporary world, while also highlighting the contrasts between light and shadow, beauty and grotesqueness, and humanity and animality. The black and white cinematography also emphasizes the emotional intensity of the film, as faces and expressions become more prominent without the distraction of color. It allows the audience to focus on the raw emotion of the characters and the situations they find themselves in. The cinematography, paired with Lynch's direction, creates a visual atmosphere of oppression and isolation, underscoring the physical and emotional constraints placed on Merrick. The close-ups of Merrick's face, especially in moments of pain or joy, are heartbreaking and deeply affecting. The contrast between Merrick's human face and the image of his grotesque exterior is emphasized by the use of light and shadow. Emotion and performance. The emotional power of The Elephant Man lies in its simplicity. The film doesn't rely on dramatic flourishes or over-the-top moments to make its point. Instead, it allows the characters' raw emotions and struggles to speak for themselves. John Hurt's performance as Merrick is one of the most moving in film history. His portrayal of Merrick's pain, hope, and humanity is subtle yet profound, and his portrayal of Merrick's gradual emotional transformation is nothing short of remarkable. Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Treves gives a nuanced and complex performance, reflecting the doctor's internal moral struggle. The film's tone, while tragic, is also infused with moments of tenderness. There is an underlying message of hope throughout the story, as Merrick, despite his suffering, manages to hold on to his sense of self-worth and dignity. Conclusion. The Elephant Man is a profoundly moving film that explores themes of isolation, human dignity, and the morality of medical care. David Lynch's direction, combined with incredible performances by John Hurt and Anthony Hopkins, makes the film an emotional experience that stays with viewers long after it ends. The black and white cinematography heightens the emotional impact, and the film's gentle approach to Merrick's story ensures that his humanity, rather than just his deformities, remains the focal point. While it takes some artistic liberties with the real story, The Elephant Man is ultimately a tribute to the resilience of the human spirit. It asks us to look beyond appearances and recognize the inherent value of each individual, no matter how society may choose to label them. The film's power comes from its ability to make us confront the uncomfortable realities of prejudice and isolation, while also celebrating the capacity for kindness and empathy in a world that often fails to understand.